Marcus never changed his passwords. That was his first mistake. I was scrolling on my phone, waiting for the coffee to brew, when the ad popped up. A baby registry. Little yellow onesies. Complete your registry for baby Whitfield. Due October 14th, Whitfield. My husband's last name. I stood there in my kitchen in Charlotte, North Carolina, mug in my hand, and I read it 3 times. Then I set the mug down very carefully, because my hands had started to shake, and I did not want to hear porcelain break before I understood what I was looking at. My name is Renata Okafor Whitfield. I'm 36. I've been married to Marcus Whitfield for 9 years. We have one daughter, Ivy, who is 7. And on a Tuesday morning in March, an algorithm told me my husband was having a baby with someone else. Here's how we got here. Marcus and I met in nursing school. He switched to hospital administration halfway through. I finished my degree and became a labour and delivery nurse at Mercy General. We built a life the slow, careful way. A house in Ballantine, a minivan we joked about, a joint account for the mortgage, and a separate one for stress relief, which was mostly me buying candles I never lit. Marcus travelled for work sometimes, conferences, site visits for the hospital network he managed operations for. 3 nights a month. I never questioned it. I trusted him the way you trust gravity, without thinking about it, because it had never once let me down. What I didn't know was that Atlanta for the quarterly audit had, for the last year, sometimes meant a woman named Daya Marsh, 29, a pharmaceutical rep he'd met at one of those conferences. What I didn't know was that there was an apartment in Buckhead with his name quietly kept off the lease, and a baby now 19 weeks along, and a targeted ad algorithm that did not care one bit about keeping his secrets. Because I had, 6 months earlier, used his old iPad to order Ivy's soccer cleats, and somewhere in the digital soup of shared devices and cross-linked accounts, Google decided I was a stakeholder in the Whitfield family's baby announcements too. I didn't scream. I didn't call him. I made Ivy's lunch, drove her to school, and then I sat in the parking lot of Mercy General for 40 minutes before my shift, doing math. 19 weeks. That put conception in November. In November, Marcus had told me he was in Nashville for a leadership summit. I remembered because he'd brought me back a snow globe from the airport gift shop, and I had thought, at the time, that it was sweet. I didn't confront him that week. I watched. I am, above all things, a patient woman. And nursing teaches you that the worst thing you can do in a crisis is move before you understand the whole picture. The breaking point came at Ivy's school open house. 3 weeks later, Marcus's mother, Carol, was there. She still is, technically, my mother-in-law, though I'd stopped expecting warmth from her around year 2. Carol had never liked me. Too career-focused, she used to say, like being a nurse who kept her family fed was some kind of character flaw. That night, standing by Ivy's cubby with its crayon self-portrait taped up, Carol looked at me and said, loud enough for 2 other mothers to hear, "You look tired, Renata." Marcus mentioned you'd been distant. Some women just aren't built for keeping a man happy. I didn't raise my voice. My voice, in fact, went very quiet and very even. "Carol," I said, "I'd be careful giving marriage advice for a man who's been renting an apartment in Buckhead since June." The room didn't gasp. It went silent in that specific way rooms go silent when everyone suddenly needs to look at their shoes. Carol's face did something complicated. Surprise, then a flicker of something that told me she already knew. Marcus, 3 feet away, went the color of drywall. This is not the place, he said. "You're right," I said. "It's not. I'll see you at home." I set the boundary once, out loud, calmly. Nobody in that room defended me. Nobody needed to. I wasn't asking for defense. I was done absorbing. What Marcus didn't know was that I'd spent those 3 weeks doing more than watching. I'd talked to my cousin Denise, who's a paralegal at a family law firm downtown. I'd pulled 6 months of bank statements. The joint account had a pattern once you knew to look for it. $340 here for team dinner. $610 there for hotel incidentals. An unexplained $2,800 wire in December that Marcus said was helping a co-worker. Total. Over 10 months, just over $19,000 of our money, quietly funding an entire second life. I'd also, on Denise's advice, retained an attorney named Patricia Alunga. who specialized in equitable distribution in North Carolina and who told me, in a voice as calm as a Tuesday, you have more leverage than you think. North Carolina is an equitable distribution state, and dissipation of marital assets on an affair is something a judge takes seriously. We document everything, and we do not react in public. Reaction is what he wants. Documentation is what wins. Marcus tried the usual moves once he realized I wasn't going to fold quietly. First it was soft. I'll end it. I made a mistake. Think about Ivy. When that didn't work, it turned sharp. He told his sister I was unstable and spiraling. He told Carol I was planning to take Ivy and disappear, which was such a specific and ugly lie that I actually laughed out loud when Denise told me about it. He threatened to fight for full custody, said his lawyer would paint a picture of me as an absent mother who worked many night shifts. I sat in my car in the Mercy General parking garage after that conversation and cried until my mascara ran. Because it is one thing to lose a marriage, and another thing entirely to hear the father of your child threaten to take her from you as a negotiating tactic. But I wiped my face, reapplied my lipstick in the rearview mirror, and walked into my 12-hour shift on time. The reckoning happened on a Sunday, at what was supposed to be a family meeting at Carol's house, called by Marcus to clear the air in front of his parents and his sister. He thought home court advantage would make me small. He was wrong. I want everyone to know, Marcus started, that Renata has been making accusations that Adele Mosh, I said. 19 weeks pregnant, due October 14th. Apartment for C on Piedmont Road. I have the lease application, Marcus. Your name isn't on it, but your employer's address is listed as your place of work, and your cell number is the emergency contact. The room went still. Carol's mouth opened and closed. Marcus's father, Ellis, who I actually liked, looked at his son with an expression I will remember for the rest of my life. Not anger, exactly. Disappointment settling in like weather. Is this true? Ellis asked. Marcus didn't answer. That was the answer. I'm not here to burn anything down, I said, and my voice did not shake. I'm here because you tried to make me look unstable in front of the one family I have left, while you built a second one behind my back with our money. An apology begins with naming what you did, not questioning how I found out. Carol tried the soft landing next. I'm sure whatever misunderstanding happened. There's no misunderstanding, Carol, I said. There's a due date. Nobody spoke for a long time after that. The consequences were cruel, but they were real. Marcus moved out within the month. The dissipation of assets documentation meant the settlement leaned heavily in my and Ivy's favor, the house. The majority of retirement accounts, child support calculated against his full salary. Not the fiction he tried to present to his lawyer. Carol called me once, weeks later, and said, I'm sorry if things got so out of hand. I told her, gently, that sorry if isn't an apology. It's a deflection, and I hung up before she could turn it into a debate. 6 months later, I hung a photo of Ivy's soccer team in the hallway of our house now. Just ours. Using a nail I put in myself, no longer waiting for someone else to get around to it. I mailed back a birthday card Carol sent Ivy with a check inside, not out of spite, but because I didn't want my daughter's relationships built on guilt money. I opened a small custodial account for Ivy with part of the settlement. The first deposit landing on a Tuesday that felt, quietly, like a beginning instead of an ending. Here's what I learned, and what I'd want any woman watching this to carry with her. Silence is not peace, it's just delayed consequence. The people who need you to stay quiet are rarely the people protecting you. You can be calm and still be unshakable. You can lose a marriage and still keep your name. If any part of this story felt familiar to you, I want you to sit with that for a second. And then I want you to tell me about it. Drop a comment, share this with someone who needs to hear it today, and subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Take care of yourselves out there. I'll see you in the next one.